I think it's time we had a conversation.
It's true. It's conversation time.
Do you want to go ahead and give the introduction here?
Sure, sure. So the conversation is a Francis Ford Coppola movie, 1974, starring Gene Hackman, the late great
The late
Gene
great.
Hackman, which is one of the reasons you chose the movie, I'm assuming,
Yes.
because we need to honor the passing of a great actor.
Yeah. Yep.
In this movie, Gene Hackman plays a surveillance expert. People hire him to photograph, record, tape other people, their conversations, what
Harry
they're doing.
Caul.
Hmm?
Harry Caul. His
Harry
name.
Caul. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And in this movie, we see him where he's already feeling guilt from a past assignment that costs other people their lives. We don't really get many specifics, but he's obviously already feeling guilty. His current assignment is following this couple and recording them, which is proving challenging, but he is getting stuff on them. And oh, who's asking for it? Is it the FBI that he was working for? That I know he was dealing with the
Uh,
director, and I don't know what the director of what though.
yeah. It's I'm
Do
not
we ever
sure.
know?
I'm not sure. He's the work that he does. This is the couple, and it's the woman is actually Cindy Williams of Laverne and Shirley. Uh, she is in this movie, and they are a couple, and that's all he really knows, and that they need this conversation recorded, and he is the best at his game, and so when he's asked to do it, he's a master at figuring out difficult uh, people that no one thinks you can get a recording of. Harry Caul does it, and so he manages to get a recording of these two, and they get photographs. You know what? It's funny because I saw this movie probably 10 years ago the first time, and I had never seen it, and I decided to check it out and loved it. But when I first saw it and then revisiting it again just this past week, I actually every time I see it, when they've got a directional microphone that they're
Hmm.
pointing out of a window, and it looks like a rifle. And both times I was thinking, ah, shit, they're gonna kill these people. But no, it's actually a directional microphone, and he uses that to get a conversation and some crowd mics too. That he's got people following them and recording them. And
Yeah, it's
yes,
a team. It's a whole operation.
it's a whole operation. But Harry Caul's directing the entire thing. It's his game. However, yes, that's one of the guys in the crowd. They've got guys in a van. He's sitting on a bench. I mean, they've got a guy in the window with a directional microphone. They it's parabolic microphone, I believe. That's one of his rivals behind me in this trailer. This short guy in the brown jacket. There, of course, is Cindy Williams again. But but yes, it's a entire operation. Um, it appears that it's a very wealthy man that is calling himself the director. He's the one that's hired. His security team has hired Harry Caul to get this recording. So yeah, it's kind of a mysterious thing. The big thing that's going on at this time, this was 1974. So Dom, you're younger than I am.
Yep.
I know you remember the Great Watergate scandal.
Yep.
And what did the Watergate scandal involve? It involved wiretapping at the Watergate hotel, and it was um, it was a crazy paranoid opera. This was a time of great paranoia in the United States.
Yeah, Nixon had just resigned his
Yeah.
office in
Yes.
74.
Yep. Yep. And there was, believe me, not to, get into a political thing, but it was a very political time. Ford, and unfortunately, Ford got kind of blamed for the mess that Nixon left behind. But, for anyone that doesn't know, Nixon was a very paranoid man. Very paranoid. I mean, in some ways, there's a good argument for that um, his world politics were actually pretty good in the sense of um, he did fairly well in his presidency, but he did inherit Vietnam. I do believe he was trying to get out of it, but he also accelerated Vietnam. I mean, the invasion of Cambodia, things like that. We were doing things that we were basically being lied to, and so it made a lot of people angry, especially young people that were being sent off to war. In a war that they, you know, um,
And while you're right, let's steer this back to
back to
wiretap.
this. Well, the reason why I'm doing this is because this was a time Nixon was extremely paranoid. There was a lot of wiretapping going on. That's um, that's the
There was a
whole
lot
water.
of surveillance and espionage.
It was so much, and we were also in the Cold War. So between everything, this was a time of turmoil. Um, you could say that mirrors today, but it was a time of turmoil. So divided nation, all that good stuff. So this is what we're looking at for the time frame. And yes, the Nixon thing had just wrapped up. So we had all of that going on in the minds of the viewing audience and in Francis Ford Coppola, who wrote and directed this. Um, this was all part of the film, and so that's the big reason I went into all of that. It's just that this was a time of great paranoia, and believe me, I mean, watching this movie. Now, this was your first watch.
This was my first watch.
Um, did this movie give you a feeling of paranoia? Because it sure
Oh
did
yeah.
me.
Well,
It,
yeah, no, it didn't give me personally a feeling of paranoia. It, I definitely, Gene Hackman played his role
oh my God, he was phenomenal.
perfectly.
Yes.
And you could definitely see how paranoid and guilt-ridden he was.
Yeah.
This movie was like watching a human train wreck in real time.
Yeah. 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 I mean, but believe me, he had very, very good reason to be paranoid. He's got when the movie starts first takes off, we see him go and visit his girlfriend, and actually with her wig and the whole bit, I didn't I didn't fully recognize that's Terry Garr.
Oh, you didn't recognize her?
Well, I did and I didn't. It was like, well, she's familiar, but look at her face there behind me. She looks so different than Terry Garr. She was a beautiful, beautiful young actress at that time, and very talented, and like, yeah, she had such a small part in this. She
I
was only,
know.
yeah, she was
When
in
I
like,
heard she was in this, I was like, oh wow, Terry Garr. And she's
yeah,
got like what, 5 minutes of screen time?
yeah, but they did that. They made good use of talented actors. Now, another person that there's Harrison Ford,
A young
a,
Harrison
a
Ford.
very young Harrison Ford, or he is in the background there. He's almost unrecognizable in the sense of look how young he is there. I
Oh,
mean,
come on.
it's
You
well, oh
could
no, I
recognize
recognized him,
him.
but I mean, but look at him. I mean, he looks like a boy, you know. So, yeah, and he kind of plays a thug that's working for the director, um, and Harry again, very paranoid. That scene with Terry Garr, one of the reasons why it's such an important scene is he is so paranoid that when he comes to see her, it's his birthday, right? And he comes to see her, and when he comes to see her, she's singing a song, and he looks at her and he goes, "Why are you singing that?" And she's like, "Just popped in my head." And he goes, she goes, "Why? Like, why are you asking?" And he's like, "Somebody else was singing that song earlier today," and it was part of the case he was working on. And but he's extremely paranoid. It's like he looks at anything like, is that like something to connect with something else, to connect dots. He's worried about people. He's his landlady leaves a birthday present for him in his apartment, and he's like, "How'd you get in my apartment to leave that there?" And she goes, "Oh, she goes, I have a spare key," and and actually it's a one-sided conversation, but you can figure it out. But he's like, "I'm changing my mail, but I'm not getting my mail here anymore." Like, because he's thinking, well, she knew his date of birth and his birthday, and he didn't like that at all. It was like,
Well, I mean, one of the things is he was the best at what
yeah,
he did.
yeah,
You can see throughout this movie how he is slipping.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. He even like he's got a really talented young man working for him, that's helping him out,
John
and
Cazale.
yes, and does a terrific job in the role. And again, kind of a small role, but he's actually somebody that, I mean, you would think a guy that's been in the business a while, that's him there. You would think that a guy that's been in that business would think, oh yeah, I'm getting older, young guy, I want to train him and have a good partner to work with. And if anything, he's doing everything he can to alienate him and keep
He
him
was
at bay.
keeping secrets from him.
Yeah. And he's doing it a lot because he's thinking to himself, I could get betrayed by this guy. And and he does have, to either side of me there, the guy in the brown, the guy in the purple. Um, they're, well, the guy in the purple works for him, but the guy in the brown, he's just a rival, but he's everything's a threat to him. Um, he makes all his own equipment. He makes only good quality equipment, but he's not teaching this guy anything. The kid that's working for him, and and again, it's hurting him. And but he's so paranoid, and I don't blame him in a lot of ways, because if you think about it, if you're in that position, and he had worked for the government. He had the three people that died. It was a woman and two kids that ended up dying on his watch because of information that he gave up, that he had recorded. So he was very scarred by that previous thing. And then when he turns over this information, and it's information, he finds out that Cindy Williams, that her character, and this guy, apparently they're having an affair. So he's when he turns it over finally, after a threat, turns it over to the guy, the director, and he says and the director, by the way, Robert Duvall, the great Robert Duvall, is,
Another incredibly small role for someone
yes,
of his caliber.
yeah, absolutely. And that's another wonderful thing about this film, is they make great use of very talented actors that in this film. And the film flows. For me, I don't know what you thought of it, but for me, the film flows very well. It's a beautifully done film, and I've got nothing but praise for this one. It's why I picked it. And again, give me your opinion. What did you think of the film itself?
I thought it was a slog. I did not. I was
Wow,
disappointed.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
this is to paraphrase Jean-Luc Picard. This is a movie that does everything right and still did not stick with me.
Oh man, yeah, I was with it right. And I'll tell you what, when I rewatch this, I'll tell you how much it stuck with me. When I rewatched this movie, I did this after a 12-hour shift, and I was really tired. I came home from a 12-hour day shift. I came home, I put the movie on. I was almost falling asleep at first because I was so tired. This movie woke me up, and I stayed with it. and again, probably a second, third viewing of the movie. But I love this movie. I love the acting. I love the way there's. I was really into the paranoid feeling of Gene Hackman. He was good enough of an actor, and there's also a good enough plot that I felt his fear. I felt his sense of like, don't trust anybody because you're probably going to get screwed here, and he almost does. So it's like I said,
It's
uh,
so sad.
it
I mean, you're
is.
seeing this guy's life crumble before your
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah. And the other thing about this movie at that time, um, like jazz was they were doing the Newport Jazz festivals and things
Mhm.
like. And I love how they had him. He's got his jazz saxophone. That's the only real pleasure he gets out of life is his jazz saxophone. And there he is after he realizes he's being bugged and that someone's been listening to his conversations. He goes through his apartment. He uses all his electronic equipment, finds all the bugs in the apartment, and then still that's not enough. He rips the entire place apart. And that's what you see in the background. He
And he
is,
still never finds it.
yeah, it's crazy. It's I mean, but that's enough right there. Talk about making you paranoid. That's enough right there that you're like, uh, my God, and he's dealing with like a lot of the one of the guys that at that this is their little get together at his studio apartment. Remember the good old days when you could actually get a studio apartment? There were actually like
I do.
old mill buildings, old
I
office
used to know
buildings you
people
could.
had studio apartments in Portland, Maine.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you pay for those now. You used to be able to rent those. You could get a whole floor like that. I mean, a big place like that, and you'd pay 600 a month or something for rent. It was nothing, and it's like try getting that nowadays. It's a whole studio apartment. So like I said, they're pricing people right out on rent, but that's another whole thing. And by the way, look at this beautiful box set. I've gotten into streaming. Dom and I were just having this conversation. So half the time I don't even buy the media anymore. I used to be such a collector of like really cool box sets. Look at this box set here. It's got the Blu-rays or DVDs. I don't know which that one is, but it's hopefully they're Blu-rays. But they're made to look like film or cassette or tape reels because they were using tapes, but back in the good old days. But yeah, that box set's beautiful. So I don't know how many people bought that set, but yeah, there's their recording equipment in the background there. Uh, no, geez, Tom, I'm sad you didn't enjoy it like I did.
So I'll tell you, and if for those of you watching, if you haven't seen this movie
Yeah,
and are considering it, let me let you in on a thing because one of my big disappointments is I thought this was going to be a movie much like Blowout or Blow Up, which did inspire this
absolutely
movie,
copied it.
where someone that is, it was photography in those movies, but where someone is captures something, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a photo, captures something that they shouldn't have, and it puts them in direct danger. We are convinced there is now an external agent that is working to cause you harm because you have captured them.
Yeah.
That's not what this movie is.
Well, yes and no.
This
I
movie
believe
is almost all Gene Hackman's internal crumbling. There may be an external danger, but
no,
it's
there
by no
is.
means certain.
Yeah.
No one
Well, there
threatens
is.
him.
There's implied threats all over the
There's
place.
vaguely implied threats, and it's not even on his life.
Wait, well, really because
Really.
well, no, I saw the threats. When he when he's at there's a convention and he
Mhm.
shows up at it because it's a convention of a lot of people he knows. It's all the
I mean,
guys he
it's
ended up.
surveillance equipment. He's in the
Yeah,
business.
yeah. So he shows up at this thing, and they all know him. As soon as he walks in, it's like, oh my God, you're Harry Caul. He's legendary. He's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of respect from the guys in the business. They all love him, fear him, want to be like him, want to be with him. The guy that's directly behind my head, he makes a long speech about why wouldn't it be great if the two of us teamed up together and become partners, because then would be the absolute best. But at the convention, who should show up but Harrison Ford? And Harrison Ford is like, "Do you have our paper? Do you have our tapes for us?" And the director's waiting for the tapes. He's very threatening. He doesn't say we're gonna fucking kill you or anything like that. He's not that direct. He's very subtle. Later, he shows up. He's sitting down in a little lounge area that Harry walks through, and he goes, "Hey, I got a drink here for you. I wouldn't have drunk that drink if you saved my to save my life." Even the way he presented the drink, I thought to myself, "Don't drink that, Harry." Yeah, but it was very subtle, and he basically tells him, "You better show up. You better get us the tapes. We want and we need the tapes." And then they break into his place and they steal them, and then they call him, and they basically say, "Well, we didn't think you were gonna bring us the tapes, and we
So
and
these
we
are unethical business practices.
sure, but
But
it's
so this woman behind me is the one that engineers the theft of his tapes.
right,
She
right.
could have killed him. They had him dead to rights. If he was in any danger,
Well, she was
they
no
could have
killer,
burned his entire studio down.
right? But she was no killer. She was. They hired a woman just to gain access. They hired her just to gain access
And they
to
gained the
his.
access and they could have done anything they wanted with that
Right.
access.
Right. Well,
They
again,
just wanted the tapes.
that no, there's more to it than that, because yes, they wanted the tapes, but there's also and they got him to show up. They got him to show up there, and even when he showed up there, Harrison Ford. That's Harrison Ford walking behind him. He's very threatening. He's I don't know if you didn't feel the threat. You
No,
weren't looking.
I've had bosses wanting me to do an extra shift be more threatening to me than Harrison Ford was. There was no physical violence. There was no flashing of a gun. There was no
Dom,
physical danger in my mind.
if you're really good, you don't have to visit physical violence on somebody to threaten them. If you're good, if you're really intimidating, you don't have to slap somebody around to scare them. A few words, well placed words. Um, I mean, it was at the point where Harry Caul actually does say to the director, he says, "Are you going to kill him?" And he won't give him an answer, of course, but he that's the meeting there where he turns over the photographs, and they've already got the tapes. But after that, he's walking around and he feels like, I'm being followed. There's stuff going on. It's
But that's
and
his paranoia. That's
but he
him
was
internally destructing.
yeah, he was being followed though. He was being they were still looking for him. They were still keeping an eye on him. And it was at the point where um, he ended up getting the conversation, and that's when they let him know they were bugging him when he rips this place apart, because they said to him, like, "Harry, we're keeping an eye on you," and that you tell me that's not a threat. I mean, when he tore that place apart, look at his apartment. He tore that apart for a reason. I would have too. It's scary when you know people are, you know tailing you, and there were definite threats. So
I am not convinced that everything wasn't entirely in his head. And we were seeing again, a self-destructing man
yeah, I
creating
think they're
creating
reading that.
paranoia and threats where there were none.
Well, I again, like I said, live through the times too. Live through the times, because, and I know it's not like you weren't alive, but you were a lot younger than I was, and I remember feeling like, these are weird times. They're
So
times of
so
great paranoia.
so here's an interesting bit of trivia, factoid, whatever.
Sure.
Um, in an interview or a commentary with Francis Ford Coppola, he said that because of when this came out, many people did associate it with Watergate, with the whole
Yep.
Nixon scandal,
Yep.
could not be further from the truth. Francis Ford Coppola wrote this before he made The Godfather.
Yep.
He wrote this in the 60s, years before Watergate.
Yep.
He tried to get this, he tried to peddle this around to different studios. No one would touch it.
Yeah. You
The
know why they
only
would?
reason, the only reason this movie got made is
Because of
because
Watergate.
he was enough of a success with The Godfather that he could fund the movie.
Yeah, and also that it was timely because the Godfather, I mean the Godfather, the whole Watergate scandal had happened, and the people's feelings. This movie resonated with people for a reason. It resonated because, man, these were paranoid times, right in the middle of a friggin' Cold War that was strong, very strong. If you were at all of age at that time, and remember what we went through with the Cold War, um, and in some ways, I long for the Cold War instead of what's going on today because I think we're in more danger today than we were. But that's another whole thing. And this is another thing. You talk about making him paranoid. If this doesn't make you paranoid, he goes to, yeah, keep that one up for a second because
I
he,
will.
he goes to he goes to he in the conversation that he records, he hears them talking about a meeting at a hotel, and he becomes convinced. Part of his paranoia, but he becomes convinced that Robert Duvall's character is going to kill his wife, Cindy Williams. I almost said Penny Marshall, um, and um, and her lover, and so he shows up, and sure enough, Harry Caul has gotten the room next door. He's listening to a whole thing going on, and while he's listening, and he puts a microphone to the wall. Isn't it crazy how far advanced technology is? He could have put a microphone and a really good high res camera through that wall now that was undetectable
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much. And now of course, it's so much more sophisticated what you can do with recording and even microphones. But I mean, drones. There's so many different ways of recording people. But um, yes, he uses his primitive method, listens to the conversation, and he actually does hear a murder. So tell me that doesn't make you paranoid.
Does
If
he hear a murder or does he imagine the murder?
well, I
No one else heard that murder.
well,
There's
he
no
had
police
the
investigation. The
yeah, he
hotel
had the
manager was not concerned.
right, he had the adjoining room. There was no one else to hear it but him, and he wasn't going to talk because he was too freaked out about the whole thing. Yeah, I believe. Well, think about it. What happened later? The guy ended up dying, and actually, it was not the
In a car accident.
right, right. But that's a perfect way of if you want to.
This movie is done so ambiguously
Well,
that
that it's
we
part of
don't
the beauty.
know.
Right, it's part of the beauty of the film, though, is that it. And this again, this is when you're watching a movie by a great director and it has a really great script, a lot of times they are asking you to maybe read more into it. But I think in some ways, I think you're almost reading more into Harry Caul than
So, so, so
what I did.
this scene behind me
Yeah,
is what convinced me this was all in his head.
yeah. It
No
didn't
one
me, but
disposes of stuff down a toilet.
well,
No,
I mean, they looked. It looked like what was coming up was probably a lot of the cleanup stuff that they threw down there. But I don't know. There's people that are sloppier at their job. Um,
that
this
hotel room was pristine, and
it took
they mess up that way.
right. Well, they cleaned it up pretty good, and but they probably flushed some stuff they shouldn't have. And when he flushed the toilet, yeah, some stuff back chugged, and but then again, even that, I mean, what's that when the stuff comes up and some maid comes in and goes, oh my God, even if they called the police, they go, well, there's blood here, but we don't know they didn't have DNA
They
testing
would
back then.
find out who had the room, and that's on record.
Right, and it was her and probably that, and then the husband showed up, and the husband was killed. But the husband is dead, and the odd part is when he shows up. This is the point where, and there's Harrison Ford in the background again, looking menacing, and he's picked out Harry Caul in the background, and that's when Harry Caul gets the threatening phone call. Listen, Harry, you better back off. Uh, don't you don't want to look into this anymore. And she's the one who survived. Her lover survived. The one who died is Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
And so if that doesn't tell you something, that he was the one that was taken out. And the conversation she is actually saying to her lover, do you think we can do this? And do you think we can actually do this, actually pull it off? And sure enough, they do. So, like I said, it's there's a certain amount of it that is maybe left to your imagination, but there's enough there. I didn't feel like I had to go reach too far to
They,
come to
they,
that
they did a
conclusion.
great job instilling a feeling of paranoia.
Yes,
But my perception, my interpretation of this film is that almost all of this was in Harry Caul's head.
yeah,
And we're seeing a slow descent into madness.
right. And you could be correct on that, but that's not how I read it.
And
And
a lot of people read it
and
different ways because I've
I,
heard a lot of people read it the way you read it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm somebody that probably looks for deeper meaning more often than the average person, but I also am someone that knows that sometimes a chair is just a chair. and there's times where you got to look. And believe me, I'm as big as the next guy when it comes to whether it's conspiracy theories. If you throw out UFOs and Bigfoot, I'm listen. I'm on board. It's like it's not like I don't reach for stuff. And when it comes to movies, I love movies. That's Francis Ford Coppola, by the way. He's in a lot of the shots that I had here where he's making of, but there he is there. My or to the guy in the beard. But anyway, young Francis Ford Coppola. But no, like I said, I like a good conspiracy theory. I like a movie that makes you think. I like a movie that when the movie ends, you go like, well, did that really happen, or what did happen? A movie like when I forced you to sit through Men, that which I think that was a great movie, but again, like I said, that's a movie that you're absolutely, at the end of the movie, you're like, well, what exactly did happen at the end? How much of it was imagination? How much of it actually happened?
Hey, that's Abe
But
Vigoda behind
Abe
you.
Vigoda, and that is on the set
Was
of
he in the movie?
something I was actually going to ask you, because when I was pulling up background shots for this is the conversation. Um, and that's
He's
Harry
not listed in the
Culver.
credits.
No, he's not. And I was wondering had he made a cameo, but I don't remember one scene that
No.
he was involved with. All I can think of is that he must have dropped by the set when they were
He was
filming it.
just about to say hi to
But
Gene.
I mean, how do you not? As soon as you said Abe Bagoda, it's like, how do you not recognize that mug?
He is so recognizable. I
Yeah.
really miss him.
Yes, I do. He had such delivery too. The guy was funny. I mean, he was somebody who could play somebody menacing, but he was so good at comedy.
I know I'm going off track now, but I really miss Barney Miller.
Mm, yes, yes, it was a very that was a talented team of actors, and I think it's underrated. but yeah, and again, the great Abe Vigoda on that series. Yes, it was so there were so many good people that what and yeah they that was one pretty much played entirely just in that one little precinct room, and
Yeah,
yet well, look what they were able to do with just using that one room. But again, yeah, that you're right. Terrific series. But and again, look at the jazz saxophone. That makes the movie cool right there. But uh hey, give it up for Gene Hackman though in this. What a performance.
amazing performance.
Yeah.
Wow, if you want to highlight Gene Hackman's skills as an actor, this is the movie for that.
Yeah. Well, he's understated. A lot of actors would have been trying to put so much more into the character or trying to do so much more with the character, and he just his face, the way he delivers lines, uh, he's so terrific. Man, we're gonna miss this guy because
He was
their
great in the
roles.
sequel too.
Oh, what's that?
He was great in the sequel to this movie.
I never saw a sequel to this. And oh, okay.
Enemy of the State.
Okay, Enemy of the State. That is a good movie. It's been a long time since I saw this one. And yeah, I actually still remember when he's telling him like get rid of all your stuff. He's he's telling and that was before we were actually because we didn't even realize that the
It's
NSA
really
had the
funny
ability to
how
like
behind the times pop culture
yeah,
is on what the technology actually is.
yeah, yeah. Well, we had no idea. I don't think it was until the OJ trial that we actually realized like wow, they can track you with a phone. And they can track you really well. I think that's actually when we first started to realize, like, at least the common man began to realize that the government had that ability. I don't know if you remember this, but years ago when I mean, many, many years ago, I remember somebody telling me, and somebody that I kind of respected their opinion, they said the NSA has the ability that if you're having a conversation with somebody on your phone, if you use certain words, that they instantly kick in, the call ends up being, and all of a sudden it's like you suddenly triggered a little, closer surveillance. And that was way back. And, I think it's gotten so much more involved and evolved because,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
that's the power of artificial intelligence.
yeah, yep. So you no longer need somebody with a listening device listening in on a phone conversation. Now it can all be done just by yeah, an artificial intelligence that that can just track whatever. But so and that's only getting the dystopian future is here, my friend. So yeah,
Well,
19
that is,
well,
unless we like bring ourselves back to the 17th century with some of the things we're doing.
Well, that could happen because we are liable to end up in World War III, and it's funny you see those little things like the what war is being fought with. It's like war being fought with sticks and stones. Then all of a sudden it's being fought with guns and bombs. Then it's fought with nuclear bombs, and then it's back to sticks and stones again. And if people don't wise up, and they won't, but well, it's unfortunate, but
And there's our upbeat video of the day,
yeah, yeah.
everyone.
But well, we are
We're all
we
doomed.
are honoring a dead man here, Gene Hackman. But
We're all doomed, and you might as well watch a movie.
sure, and there's plenty of conspiracy going on about Gene Hackman and his death now too. So we still don't have the results of that, and so because of that, people are speculating. But it's unfortunate because um, I think he would have preferred that his dignity in death would have been probably a little more uh,
Yeah, I mean,
less.
he was a very private man at the
He
end.
was, he was like Harry Caul. He kind of kept to himself. But by all by all intents and purposes, everybody that talks about him talks about, he was a really good human being. So, and we certainly lost a great actor. Um, I
Phenomenal
love,
actor.
I love this movie. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but that's
No, we
okay.
don't.
Um, so,
So let me point out the good things about this movie.
sure.
Obviously, the high point is Gene Hackman. If you're interested in seeing Gene Hackman's chops as an actor, you can't do better than
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
The second is seeing the 1970s, the way it was filmed was
Oh
just
yeah.
beautiful.
Yes. I miss the old, I miss the old filmmaking. Miss the old technique.
Mhm.
Um, there's something, there's something about the way, uh, you know, I wish Hollywood would go back to just making quality film with adult plots that have, um, everything doesn't have to be about glitz and trying to, do something that's throwing stuff in your face all the time. It's
No,
not,
but
this is a quiet, subtle film. I'd take this, anything that was nominated for an Academy Award this year, I would take this film over it. This would be best picture over anything that was put up. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. Call me old.
I don't think I saw any of the movies that were put up for an Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, I had mild interest in a couple, but I really felt like, wow, it was a lackluster year.
Did The Substance even get nominated?
No, and that was actually one. That's one that I do want to see that. I actually am interested in that one.
I did see it.
What was your opinion? Because
It's good.
I
It,
thought of pulling that up.
I,
Um,
I don't feel it's as deserving as some of the fanfare I've heard it
yeah,
get. It's not like a groundbreaking movie.
yeah.
It's good.
Well, I'm glad to hear your opinion. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna
And
check it out.
obviously, through our talks and these videos, I am very critical of movies.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you're probably much more critical than I am because I think I tend to be A, more forgiving. B, I probably more than probably 90% of the people, I'm probably more diverse about what I like to watch because I'll watch all kinds of crazy films and I'll find something in them. I mean, Alicia one time, your cousin Alicia one time said, I don't know how any algorithm could ever figure out what you really like for movies because it's all over the place. Um, and so because of that, it's true. I see sometimes recommended movies, and I'm like, why'd you recommend that one? I got no interest in that. And then other times I'll be like, well, it was spot on, but it's like it's hard to know. But and Dom, I am not a crook. uh,
America needs to know I am not a
when
crook.
you have to say that, it's not a
You're a
good
crook.
thing. But yeah, the great Harry Caul, and I'll just say I am going to go on record as saying two solid thumbs up. Um, when you were talking about good points of this film, I
Mhm.
will also say, well, you also have to keep in mind that they had cameos by Cindy Williams,
Yep.
um, Terry Garr,
Yep.
and also Harrison Ford. So
And Robert Duvall.
and Robert Duvall. Yes, cannot forget him. But yes, Robert Duvall. So the very fact that they were able to uh, incorporate them in the film and in small roles that were, again, I think effective. Um, there's our buddy Robert Duvall there, and yeah, I just think it was a really well done. And I'm missing people like his assistant there that, I
Yeah,
mean, come on.
Kazali.
Yep. So wonderful cameos, wonderful small, you were one of our first ones that we talked about. You brought up the old quote about no small actors,
Mhm.
or no small roles, just small actors. And
Still,
that's
I
true.
wish I had seen more of like I was fascinated at seeing Cindy Williams in something that was not Laverne Shirley, and I wish I had seen more of her.
Yes. She, she was in American Graffiti.
Yep.
She appeared in a few different roles. Besides, she's just known for Happy Days was the first appearance of Cindy Williams' character Shirley, but and was she also on Mork and Mindy at all? I don't know, but anyway, she
She may
might have
have had a
been.
cameo.
Yeah, that was like a offshoot of Happy Days. That Mork, I never Mork and Mindy. I mean, it is what it is, but like the Mork for Mork thing, when they jumped the shark, that was part of the whole thing. When you have to introduce an alien that comes out of an egg as part, but I guess they were
Yeah,
just trying
but
to.
Robin Williams.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
know.
care what role he's in. It's Robin Williams. He's
True,
so
true,
rapid fire.
true. And back then his humor was just so off the wall, screwy, crazy, funny. But he'd go on a he'd go on a talk show, and you'd be thinking, "Wow, this guy's got to be on cocaine." And to tell you the truth, I think most of the time it was just him.
Oh yeah, same here.
It's that's the amazing thing with Richard Pryor. Yeah, he probably was freebasing, but Robin Williams, I think he was just doing his thing. But
That's him.
yeah, yep, for better or worse. That and hey, he gave us a lot of cool movie roles. Speaking of which, I'd love to do 1 hour photo at some point.
Yep.
Um, that's
Man, talk about a depressing film.
oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah. So anyway, I probably we've gone as far as we can with this. Again, I'm greatly saddened that you didn't
Yeah,
like.
again, a fine example, like a
Um,
phenomenal example of acting, a fine example of filmmaking, just really painful for me to watch,
well,
and therefore just not very enjoyable to me.
you just made me really sad about that. But naturally, I'm joking. But no, we've said this many times, and that is movies, like all art, is subjective, and it's
We're gonna
what
like what we
pleases you.
like.
Yeah. So so yeah, I think we could probably wrap it up. I don't think we probably through my incessant talking, but I don't think we probably gave you the chance to do the or I gave you the chance to do the intro properly, but you did. I think you did it well. Plus, we managed to let everybody know this was definitely a tribute to the great Gene Hackman.
Hmm.
And please leave the like and subscribe, folks. We need the support. We are hoping. I mean, we're going to do this one way or another because we love it. We
We
have
love it.
fun. So we're enjoying it. Whether hopefully other people are, or some people are anyway. But we're going to do it just because we like it. Um, so there. But anyway,
We'll do it with or without
yeah,
you.
yeah. So, but we do appreciate the support, and if you can, subscribe, you can
And
like.
hopefully you're enjoying it. If you are watching it, hopefully you're enjoying it and tell us more of what you want.
Yeah, tell us what you like. You can tell us what you don't like. But I don't know. We're two old dogs, so I don't know how much we can we can
Oh,
change.
we've
But
learned new tricks before.
yeah, yeah. Every once in a while, somebody teaches us one. Get the stick. Get the. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, please, if you could comment, leave a like, share it. That's a good way of helping us spread it
And
around.
suggest some movies. I don't have another movie picked yet because I can't make up my mind.
Yeah.
So,
Well, see that I have more of a problem with that. I mean, I actually have a movie in my head for my next pick. I mean, I actually have more than one, but I definitely have one for like that. I'd love to
well, I had a few and I couldn't find them on Vudu.
talk to me later.
I will. I'm talking to you
Yep.
after this video because
Yep. Talk to
I'm
me later
astounded I
because
can't find it on
yeah.
Vudu.
So anyway, I think at that though, we will wrap this. We will wrap this up. Dom and I can continue to discuss, and we will. Dom always does a short for these, or most of the time does a short, and we, as far as as an intro short, and you'll see what Dom's pick is. And the next pick is Dom's, and
Yep.
so you'll see what his pick is when you watch the short. Um, if you haven't checked out the conversation, I urge you to. It's a
Check it out.
terrific film.
At the moment, it's free on YouTube right now.
Yeah, yep, and it's I mean it's available to watch, and hey, it's good enough. I would say if you buy media, buy it on Blu-ray, buy it on 4K. Terrific film. But with all of that, having said all of that, I think we're gonna call it a wrap here, and we will definitely be back next week.
Yep.
So Dom, thank you again. I appreciate you sitting down and checking out
Uh,
another film that you hadn't seen. So
Thank
uh,
you. I love watching new movies.
yeah, yep. And this is one, when people talk about, well, oh, I'll never get back. Uh, that you can't say that with this. Is a beautiful.
Nope, you can't
It's
say
a
that with
beautiful
this.
film, whether it's a favorite of yours or not. It's still a good film. So, um, folks, we'll be back next week with Dom's ghost pick because we don't know what it's going to be yet. So, all right, folks. Dom, see you next week, buddy.
I'll see you next week.
All right, take care.